my one ambition. I came to praise, I'm making you my whole existence. Less of me, more of you, Lord, be the center. Every day I'm living to magnify Jesus. You're so much bigger compared to every other way. You're so much better. Less of me, more of you, Lord, be the center. Every day I'm living to magnify Jesus.
Good morning. That was Camp Rush. Give it up for some leaders and some kids. Hopefully they've rested and dried out since then. We had a really wet week. Man, we are right in the middle of camp season, so we're glad that you're here. Understand that camp season gets a lot of our focus. So if you went back that way, you saw a lot of coolers and boxes and stuff like that. Forgive our mess. But man, we're right in the middle of it. We got Camp Gotta Go. That's for our 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade that leaves this upcoming week. So here's what we need. We need you to pray. We need you to pray that God would continue to move in the hearts of our students. We were really blessed this week with an awesome group of middle school kids, which Jeremy and Stephanie did such a great job. Jeremy and Stephanie Chambers are the one that headed the camp up, and then those and all the leaders that were part of it, such an awesome job. This upcoming week, though, if you want to pray for dry, that would be good. Why not, right? So then also Extreme Day Camp at the end of this month. It's June 1st, so at the end of June, we do a huge camp here every year, Extreme Day Camp. If you are a volunteer, if you have volunteered in the past, raise your hand if you're one of the people that have volunteered at that before. Yeah, there's a lot of you, right? If you've not registered, it's live and we need you to register. We're going to do shirts and all that stuff. So get on to the app. Boom, nice job. And on the calendar feature, you'll be able to go down and there's volunteers. It'll say signups available, not only for volunteers, but as of this morning, you can register your kids too. So any student that is, really any grade level up to 6, we would love to have them, or at least you to inquire about that. And so it's Extreme Day Camp. It's a huge deal. We'd love it if you'd register your kiddo. So man, this morning we got a great day planned. I would love it if you guys would stand, if you would. Give somebody a high five or say hello to someone that you haven't seen in a while. We're glad you're here to worship. Well, good morning again. It's good to see you guys. As we are in our series here today, we start a brand new one, Back to the Basics. We're going to be looking over the next several weeks at some of the things about our Christianity that sometimes are apparent and sometimes maybe we've just forgotten or it's been a long time. So whenever we mention camps, I always feel like I forget to talk about Beach Blast. That is the one that we do at the end of the summer as we're a high school ministry, 9 to 12. We will take a bunch of kids to Panama City Beach, Florida at the very beginning of August, and it is such an exciting thing every single year, and every single year we run into the same issue. Hey, who's going to drive the bus this year, right? So last year we had to take 2 buses, and it's looking like that's going to be our reality. That's a good problem to have, but you got to have multiple drivers for that. So each year, and last year was no different, and this year won't either, I kick around the idea with some of the other leaders. I'm like, man, I really got to go get my bus driver's license. Like, that would be a really good way for us to check a couple of boxes here. And so I've talked about it for long enough. Well, last year we ran into a tough spot again, and right before Beach Blast, I decided, you know what? I'm going to do it. Right? So process is simple. You go take a written test, you then get your permit, and then you practice, and then you go take the test. Simple, right? So we got into this tough spot, and I decided, yeah, I'll do it. So I went and took the written test that was in Branson. All right, I passed. Okay, so I'm on to the next step. I book the test, and so it was in late July, and so I knew that it was like right up against it. If I don't pass this, then I'm not going to be able to solve that problem. We're going to have to go a different route. Well, it took me getting all the way up to Stratford to get ready to test to realize that I had skipped a step, which was to go to the DMV and actually get my permit. Womp, womp. So I was no problem. I was no help last year, right? So we ended up finding someone last minute. Again, we know that God works in all these things, right? So the person that ended up doing it, it was a great fit, ended up being awesome. So, but I was like, you know what? I'll do it this fall. I'll do it for next year. So I went in the fall. So we're in the fall now, right? Got my permit, practiced, studied, and I was ready to go. Okay, so I booked the test. This time, I booked it in Willow Springs, if you know where that is. It's about 2 hours from here. And so I was studied up. I arrived early. I was ready to take the test and pass it and all of that. And so I hand all of my stuff through the window to the person working, and I hear, well, that's weird. Class C. Hey, Martha, have you ever seen a... So apparently, right, long story short, there was a misprint on my testing ticket whenever I was at the Branson testing office the first time in the summer of last year that had printed Class C instead of Class B. So all my progress to that point in the fall was lost. They're like, well, that's weird. You're just going to have to go back to the testing site in Branson and get it there, which on my day off, by the way, that place is only open on Tuesdays and Thursdays from 9 to 4, in case you're wondering, right? So I get there, right? Well, that's weird. I've never seen a Class C before. So they print off the testing ticket, take it to the DMV. Class C, have you ever seen anything like that? Craziest thing. I get my permit, right? Set up for the next test, went up on my day off again, Willow Springs, same person behind the counter. By the way, February now, okay? Same guy behind the window, and I'm like, this is going to work to my advantage. This guy remembered me. He was like, yeah, that was the craziest thing. Have you ever seen anything like that before, Martha? Hey, Martha, it's the guy again, right? So I get into the test. I'm taking the pre-trip. That's the hard part. You have to mention all of the parts of a bus, how they could or could not go wrong, how they operate, blah, 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 blah. I get to the end of it, and he's like, yeah, sorry, you just didn't give enough detail about some of those things on there. In particular, the drive shaft. If you don't know what a cotter key or a castle nut are, apparently I don't either, right? Because I'm not a mechanic. So I failed, okay? Now, again, I can handle failing, right? You want to give me some pointers. I studied up a little harder. I'm in, right? So the next Monday I had off. Okay, we're in March now. I head up to Stratford, notoriously more difficult. So I get up there. I'm like at 7:35. I've got my book. I'm ready to go. And I hand my stuff through the window. That's weird. Your name's misspelled on your testing ticket. Okay. Well, didn't you take this last week? I'm like, yeah, I went all the way to Willow Springs and took, and I didn't pass. And she goes, well, it's a good thing you didn't pass because it wouldn't have counted because your name was spelled wrong. So after 30 minutes on the phone with my school and with the state of Missouri, they got my name fixed, and I'm in, right? I'm testing. So I test. It's a difficult part of the test, only I pass it this time. Yes, right? And so the hardest part of it was, and then she said, well, you did a really good job on that, but unfortunately, we don't have enough time for you to do the practical test. When can you come back up? So did I mention that spring is my busiest time of the year? I'm coaching softball. I'm doing all these things. And so long story, really long, I went back and I went back and passed, okay? Then there were 3 additional trips to the DMV because they had put in an air brake license that I didn't have passed because I had needed an exemption for that. 3 times more, right? So that's 3 trips to Stratford, 2 trips to Willow Springs, 2 trips to the Missouri State Examination Site in Branson, 5 trips to the Department of Motor Vehicles, and now I have my CDL to drive to Beach Plus. Simple. Now, a lot of lessons here that we can learn about all of that, right? But here's the main one, is that sometimes things that are supposed to be simple, they turn out to not be simple, right? Sometimes that are so straightforward and you're like, oh, well, they end up being way more involved than maybe what was sold. My wife and I have a lot of furniture in our home from IKEA, and all I know is some assembly required must mean something different in Sweden. So if you've ever been 2 hours deeper into something than you anticipated, you know what I'm talking about, right? So sometimes things are more difficult than maybe they were sold. Now, the real thing, and why I ask you to listen to all of my complaining about that process, was this. Here's the question I want you to consider as we get into our time here today. Has Christianity ever felt like that to you? Like maybe the way that it was sold when you were a kid, you're not really finding that what you were told on the front side of things. You're not really seeing that, no, in practical. On some level, I think probably all of us have experienced this, and it could be for a number of reasons. I think sometimes things are done to the message of Jesus Christ by others, sometimes well-intentioned people. And sometimes I think we drag a bunch of baggage into it too with our approach. Now, if you've heard me before or know me, I do this every time where I take it to the historical setting, right? Like, so in my mind, I'm always trying to think. It's just the way I'm bent. But in the run of history, right, ever since Jesus stopped leading this movement physically and went, and was crucified, ever since that point, religion has been messy. It's been, and to say that it's not done the best job of communicating things all the time is pretty gracious, right? It's pretty ugly sometimes. So it makes sense why, because the message it's complicated, right? The message of Jesus Christ, first of all, is not extremely simple, right? But it's also in the hands of imperfect people who are at their best trying to communicate something, right? I mean, we try our best here at the River, Paul, myself, but man, are we going to get it right all the time? No, right? And so again, this is why it makes sense, right? And in your life and mine, what I'll call contemporary Christianity in the world today that we live in, we've got a church that's been repackaged and revived and reclaimed and reworked so many different times that there were 85 different options within driving distance for you to go to church today. Not to mention online options. You could have just stayed at home in your PJs, right? We all physically have to drive by other churches to get to this one place to do this one thing. There's nothing simple about that. So if you're here, right, and you have some hang-ups about all of the process of Christianity, yeah, me too, right? Glad you're here. Glad you're doing it, right? Anytime I'm given this opportunity, this morning, Pastor Paul, if you didn't see him, it's because he's celebrating the birth of a 2-year-old. His grandson turns 2 this week, and so he is visiting with family. We're really glad that he gets to do that. I feel blessed that I get to fill into this role, and I feel wholly inadequate at times, and I'm just excited that we have a pastor that still prioritizes family as well. And so Christianity, if you think about it, it's just trying to get as much of us out of the way of him all the time. Remove yourself from it and let the gospel of Jesus Christ shine. Christianity, this message of Jesus, it's very, very simple at its base. It's a movement of people from a long, long time ago, 2,000 years. The core of why we do this hasn't changed at all. And here it is. It starts with that we were created by God to live in perfect harmony with him. So you and me were both created so that we would live in this euphoria, this together with him all the time. And over and over and over, we believe that we can do it better than he can. That we can get there better, we can get there faster or quicker, more satisfying. And over, we try it on our own, and we find really quickly that we can't, and we run into death and pain. That's the story of Christianity. And it's simple, right? But then there's the good news, is that God knew that we weren't going to be able to do this, so he loved us so much that he sent his own son, Jesus, to make a way when there wasn't a way, and that if we follow his way, if we follow Jesus' footsteps and get in that, then at that point we will be in perfect harmony someday, the way that we were created to live with God forever. It is that simple. But when we say simple, we often pair it with another word, right? Simple and easy. And I'll say, those are two words that run together a lot, but they are not the same thing. These words are everywhere in advertising. When you say simple and easy, it rolls off the tongue because it's what you're sold. It's A, not going to be complicated, B, not going to take much effort. And I believe that following Jesus is simple, but I believe that it is not easy. This morning, as we start our new series, it's reality. Like Christianity has been made into a lot of different things. It's been made into gimmicks, and it's been made into religions, and it's been made into a lot of stuff that maybe it wasn't intended at the first point. So if we strip it back, how do we get to the base? These camp videos, you're going to see a bunch of them this summer. And every time I watch one of them, whether it's this year or it's a previous year, it hits me in the feels every single time. It is amazing to watch our students grow and then now watch adults that come back as not students anymore and see how God has moved in their lives. And in all of those videos, there's a lot going on in those camp videos, right? Marshmallow games and music and sometimes kayaking, and there's a lot of stuff that goes into those camps, building relationships. But at its core, it's a bunch of fully devoted followers of Jesus Christ doing whatever it takes to reach people with the message of Jesus Christ. Like at its core, at its base, if you strip everything back, that is the truth that guides us. And it's that we have to serve him because without him, we are hopeless. If you don't buy into that, if you don't believe that, on some level you will run into an issue with that because it's only through him that we are made alive. Live like the way that it's promised in the Bible. Like it's because that's why we organize our lives and our schedules and our time and our resources. It's for us to find a healthy life. But first of all, it's to share that message with the rest of the people around us. So we serve him. And it looks like a whole bunch of different things when it comes to camp. When we get that part right about sharing the message of Jesus, it's so cool. If you've been a part of camps before, you know exactly what I'm talking about, that moment where it clicks for someone that's younger than you and they realize what Jesus has intended for us to realize. The problem is, we make it into a bunch of other stuff that it was never meant to be in. We make it about music, or we make it about the man up here, or we make it about the money, or we make it about methods, or we maybe on a personal level, it becomes about our comfort, or maybe our pleasure, or on something to do with our pride, or our preferences, or whatever it is, and we take this beautiful message of the gospel of Jesus Christ, and we make it about something other than Jesus Christ, and that is the problem with it all. If you're here today and you have been in church and maybe you heard this message filtered through dysfunction, then maybe this message doesn't quite resonate like the way that I'm saying. Like, I'm glad you're here because there's a bunch of people who hear that and then they never return. And they won't because they're not going to put themselves through that again. This is unfortunately what is done to the message of Jesus Christ. So that's one side. And then the other side is this, that sometimes following Jesus is easy, like barbecues and baptisms are awesome. And sometimes it's really hard. You feel like the fight of your life. And it's because knowing what to do and actually doing what you're supposed to do are two totally different things. Knowing what to do is simple, right? I know what I'm supposed to do. Doing it is the hard part. Like, I love buffalo wings, right? And right now, and this is not advertising, I'm not getting paid from anyone to say any of this. Buffalo Wild Wings is doing like a all-you-can-eat thing. And I know for a fact if I go do that, I'm going to suffer for like 8 to 20 hours afterwards. Man, I went, and it was awesome until I was done, right? Now, I love buffalo wings, but I know that like my body does not. And here is a silly example of a much larger truth about our lives. It's that we can know what is right, we can know what is good, but doing it is the hard part. It's the challenge. And like following Jesus isn't always easy because staying healthy is a fight. What I would challenge you and what I would like to do this morning is I want you to walk out of here with an accurate picture of what your relationship with Jesus is like. If you don't have one, maybe how to do that. If you have one and it feels different, then maybe assess that, right? And maybe give you some practical ways so that you can approach it this week on your own. And I say because I'm in the same boat as you. I have baggage and hang-ups and crap into this room because none of us are perfect, but we're all following the only one who ever was, and he's got hope and he's got a plan for you. And if you are running aground in your life, there's one direction that you can go, and it's the only one. And so I want to pray that I am able to communicate that. So let's go to him before we start with Scripture. God, we thank you for this morning, for men and women that will come and use their gifts and lead us in worship to prepare our hearts to focus on you. God, everything that we could do or say or I could communicate today, it starts with your holy word and your son Jesus. And so this morning I hope that they shine. I pray that you would allow us to focus on our lives for just a minute in a way that's meaningful, that we can continue to walk into and out of this place and move steadily towards you. We love you, and it's in Jesus' name we all say. So taking it back to the basics, right? Simple and easy. That's my title for today. If I strip things down and I get it to the most simplistic form that I can, here's my thesis statement, right? Is I think we all pretty much want the same thing. And if you're in this room, yes. If they're listening at home, yes. I think we all kind of, and I'm not talking about specifics, like not like a 401k or grandkids or boat or whatever. Like I think at more deeper level than that, at the very base, here it is. We want connection and we want purpose. Connection and purpose. Connection, belonging. Like we want to be a part of a group of people and feel like we fit. Right? And purpose, this idea that we're all here in this same experience. We don't exactly know what that is, but we want to find why, right? We want to find ourselves a why. Now, I'm a social sciences guy. I told you I teach history, and so I'm very familiar with Maslow's hierarchy and all of that stuff. And so, yeah, food and water and the security and stuff like that. But outside of the things that continue to allow you to breathe, okay, I think these are the two. These are the two things, connection and purpose. This is, without one of these two things, you're going to want more, right? So this is why people who have every dollar that they could possibly spend in their lifetimes can be totally miserable. And this is why people who don't have much but have connection and purpose have joy. It's not like it's hard. It's very simple. It's these two things. But if we're looking at these two things, then if it's so simple, then and we understand, as a group of people, we're here seeking this, right? That's why we're here today. I feel like as a group of people that are attending second service, we're here, we're locked in. I feel like we're okay with that. We're okay that it may not always be easy. We're working at it, right? We all are good people, right? You guys probably pray. I don't know what you do in your private time. Maybe you read the Bible, maybe it's inconsistent, maybe it's messy. All right, fine. So what's the problem? Why can't we find this all the time? Here's another one, a church question. If we're getting back to the basics and I want to ask some of these questions, then why is it sometimes we feel like we're closer to God than others? Sometimes it feels like you're a mountaintop moment, and sometimes you don't. And so to level the ground, if you're here and you are just beginning in a relationship with Jesus, right? Or if you've been following him for 50 years, and this is the 9th message that you've heard about Luke 9, which is where we'll be here in just a second. Our reality is that sometimes it's easier than others. And God doesn't move. We've heard that message before too, right? Like he doesn't move. So why is it sometimes more complicated than others? And there's no nice way to put this. We are the problem. We are the ones who are the problem. And I believe today what I want to look at is that I think our issues are mostly circle around the issue with our focus. So we're going to be in the Bible today in Luke 9:21. So if you have your Bibles, I would love to start there. Go ahead and turn there now. It will be up on the screen here in a moment. But I want to set this up because as I was studying this week and getting into Luke 9 and studying through the Scripture and trying to get back to the some of the commentaries that have been read have been written about this particular verse. It's a very very iconic sequence of events here. But there's a human element to it here that I don't want us to miss because it like wrecked me last week as I was reading it again. So we come up on this verse where Jesus and his 12 disciples have been doing ministry for a while. This is kind of right in the middle of it all. If you're familiar with some of those Jesus stories, those little pearls, right? He had just fed the 5,000 people, like this really public miracle that everyone got to see. Right after that, he pulls his 12 disciples and said, hey, we're going to go get into a private space. So all of them get into this same private space. It's just Jesus and his guys. And then he launches into this conversation with his disciples, and he asks them, like, hey, in that crowd of people, like, who do people say that I am? This is Jesus asking us. Like, who do people say that Jesus is, right? I think we could answer that a bunch of different ways in our world. Like, well, it's like a game, right? Or it's like a fun, Santa Claus, right? Who is it that people say that I am? The disciples give him some answers, and then Peter launches into it, right? And for the first time in the Bible, launches out and says out loud, hey, you're the chosen one. Like, you are the Messiah. Like, you are the one God sent to save all of us, and that's why we're here. Like, such a big moment. Like, it's blasphemy if he's wrong. So, that's punishable by death. And so this is a little bit of a risk. And I just imagine them all sitting in this circle, and they're all kind of leaning in like, Peter drops that. And they're all like, yeah, aren't you? Like, we're trying this. Like, we're following you. Here we are. And he says it. And then with a heavy smile, I picture Jesus kind of nodding. And then he says, Jesus strictly warned them not to tell this to anyone. And he said, the Son of Man must suffer many things and be rejected by the elders, the chief priests, and the teachers of the law. And he must be killed, and on the third day be raised to life. A tender moment will just fly by if we can't. So disciples have their hopes confirmed. He's the guy, and he's sitting in the circle with them. He's the one they left everything to follow, and he confirms that he's the predicted Savior that these guys had worked their whole lives in hope of seeing. And in the same breath, Jesus breaks it to them what he has to do next. So what a moment of oh my God, literally. And oh no. This is what he has to face. This is what can both be exciting and crushing about all of this. And I would just encourage you, read it. The Bible is so rich when you get in these moments because he will reveal things like this to you. I had just an awesome moment with just me and my Bible and God the other day reading this story, and I feel like that's what he does, but we have to meet him there. We're going to spend the majority of our time in this next verse. So verse 23. So we're going to read this together, and then I'm going to get into it. Then he said to them all, whoever wants to be my disciple must deny themselves and take up their cross daily and follow me. For whoever wants to save their life will lose it, but whoever loses their life for me will save it. So for me, these words are a little conflicting. I'm sure that the disciples felt the same way. It's simple. There's the directions. Okay, so if you want to find life, then do that, right? If you want to be connected, if you want to find purpose, do those things. Just deny yourself, and and all that, right? But none of that is easy. There's a bunch of reasons why, and I said this a second ago, but this is where we're going to focus today. Is that they all deal with our focus. Now, focus is kind of a weird thing. If I were to come up to you and say, "Hey, what's your focus?" That's a weird question, but if I gave you a second to kind of think about it, right? You'd say probably something noble, right? Hopefully, and maybe dishonest. I don't know, right? Why dishonest? Well, where does our focus often shift whenever we aren't thinking about it, whenever we're not intentional? Focus is back to us, right? Like if we are not intentional with what we're focused on, it will automatically reset back to whatever we want. Okay, here's an example of this. And so this is going to be a little bit weird. I'm going to ask you to do something kind of not super weird, but I want you to just look at the room real quick. Everybody kind of look around. All right, look at each other. You guys are looking good. And so here's what I want to say. So you ready? Our focus is like, ready? Our posture. So like collectively, we're all like, because what happens to our posture when we're not thinking about it or we're not intentional, right? We lose it. Our posture's not that great when it comes down to it. Like generally, there's a few of you that have fantastic posture. Good job, right? But I would even argue that you've been made to think about that posture because of pain or a warning that if you didn't, something would go drastically wrong. So generally speaking, our posture and our focus are very, very similar. Right? It's kind of interesting, and you can do whatever you want with this one. But where do both of them tend to drift if we're not thinking about it? Towards us, towards our hearts, our own self, right? And so I don't know if there's anything spiritual about that, but man, I just feel like focus in general, it has to be reset off of us and onto God. Look what Jesus says about this. Then he said to them all, "Whoever wants to be my disciple must deny themselves and take up their cross daily and follow me." So our focus, a couple of parts here. First, Jesus is saying that we have to deny ourselves. This is pretty straightforward, but man, these instructions, they are difficult. And I'll just say, denying ourselves might be the hardest thing that we have to do consistently. Now, like, if you look at, this runs basically in opposite direction of everything you've learned in your entire life up to this point, right? Everything from the beginning of your life until now, pretty much, has been about you first. You. It's survival on some level, like food and, like shelter, and then success, right? Achievement, and when it comes to academics or anything like that, it's me first. It's always that. I mean, like, nobody's making it out of middle school with a little bit of selfishness, right? Like, you have to. It's like a self-preservation thing. And so what worked for you then doesn't really work for you the older that you get. To deny me is hard. In fact, I think it's the hardest thing that we do as followers of Jesus. And to be successful on a larger level, take Jesus out of it for a second. To be successful in life, if you think about this, like at every stage in the game, it's delayed gratification. Deny your desires. It's long-term planning. It's healthy living. To stay healthy requires you to deny yourself. All of those things are learned behaviors. You're learning those things. We don't instinctively want what's good for us. In fact, our instincts are kind of garbage sometimes, if I'm being honest. Pretty much any argument that says just trust and see whatever your heart is false, and it's probably trying to reinforce some kind of bad behavior. Like give an 8-year-old free reign of anything for very long. That's a bad idea, okay? So when it comes down to it, to deny ourselves requires taking the focus off of ourselves. It's hard to hear, but it's not about us. It's not about, like, your life is not about you. And when you make it about you, things go wrong quickly. Okay? If you make your whole life about you, it'll be disappointing. Your spouse, if you enter into a relationship with someone, if you make that relationship all about you, it will end poorly. If you have children, okay, your career, anything you fill into that place that is supposed to be where God exists, anything you put into that will end in disappointment if you are focused on you. We are not created to worship the created. We are intended to worship the Creator. And so when we look at our focus, and it has to be intentionally placed on Him over and over again. So how do we do that? This is where I want to stop for a second. I had like a whole thing written out about this is how I do it and blah, blah, blah. And so like those things are great. I would love to have a conversation with you about how it's important for you to focus and how this is the why I do it and blah, blah, and all of that. But like, if you want to come talk to me, do it. But here's the thing. It starts very simply with reading the Bible. I mean, it's what does it say? Okay, so like the inspired words of God are in our hands, but we have to do something with this. So what does it say? Deny themselves and take up their cross daily and follow me. We take up our cross. Not language we use a lot, I don't think, in our world, at least not outside of this place. So like we may not get it, the disciples got it. Right? In the Roman world, if you took up your cross, it meant that the decision had been handed down, you were guilty, and you had been sentenced to die. So like this statement here in this circle, when he says that, like it was a big deal. So if we went back to the concept of it, denying ourselves, right, and taking up our cross, they're kind of the same idea, right? So as we look at that idea, here it is. It's that the cross isn't about us. It's not about your goals. It's not about your success. Definitely not about your comfort. It's not about you at all. Here's the deal. A person carrying a cross knows they can't save themselves. That ought to mean something. Like a person carrying a cross know that they can't save themselves because like this isn't some twisted death tactic scare. Like Jesus isn't trying to scare them straight. That's a little bit of the way if I'm coming into it as a, banged up church kid when I was a younger one. Like the reality is that this is not some sort of like, hey, if you don't do this, it's going to be really bad for you. No. This is a reminder that we can't save ourselves. Like there's not enough. There's not enough of us. We can't do it. Without him, we will just feel guilty and hopeless. And there's not enough importance or money or pleasure or intentions or anything else to save us from death. We are born sinful, and so the consequences of that are death. So if you come and you've had this message filtered through dysfunction, here's the invitation, okay? This is not a morbid reminder that you're not good enough, because that's the way it's heard a lot. And no, it's an invitation to say, this is the only way out. Like, Jesus is offering the only thing that will work. Like, remember, God didn't leave Jesus in the grave, and he won't do that to us either. When we follow him, it's the only way. He will not leave us nor forsake us. And so we have to deny ourselves and remind ourselves consistently that this life is not about us, it's about him. How often? How often do we do this? Daily. What does that mean? I mean, I think it means as often as we can, right? Like daily, it means like as often as needed, every day. Every chance. If we have breath in our lungs, we need to acknowledge who he is and refocus our hearts on him. And so like in this, he's not talking about he's being figurative. This is like a spiritual refocus. That means you can't literally crucify someone every single day. So he's saying this as a way, in order to get our headspace into behaving like Jesus, then we need to follow Jesus every day. It's pretty simple and pretty difficult. And then verse 24, I'll just read it again, but this reassures us, for whoever wants to save their life will lose it. And whoever loses their life for me will save it. The takeaway here is that every day that you and I breathe, we have to acknowledge where life comes from, and we have to acknowledge why we are here. And there's really only one place that we're going to be able to do that very consistently, and it's this one, and we have to get in it. Like, you can't just have intentions when it comes to this. Like, we can't get into this mode where we have a lot of, well, I've been meaning to, or, oh, I just haven't really done that recently. Like, the more that we get into this, the more truth that we will have, and the more fruit that you will see. But here's the deal. It has to work for you, and you have to work at it. So whatever your strategy for doing that is, and again, I've been following Jesus for 30 years now, and I'm inconsistent with it, and I don't get it right all the time. But for me, I'm getting better at it. Here's what I'll find, is that I get really comfortable doing what I always do, right? Well, yeah, I'll just do that. That's what kind of I always go do. And then I'll know what I should do and not do it. And that's called disobedience, and that hurts. Because the reality is that it's not like God is like banging me upside the head. No, I can go a long time, like just doing what I always do. And then I'll run into a spot where my focus has shifted from, this is dangerous, so my focus has shifted from him to what can he do for me. And that's a subtle shift that will ruin everything in your life. You focus from him to what can he do for me. Those are the seasons of life that feel dry, and I feel tired, and I lose sight of connection, and I don't feel purposed, and it's because I'm not connecting to the source of life. So I got to shake it up sometimes. That's me. A couple weeks ago, my family and I, this is summer. I'm a teacher, so it's kind of the time where I get to recharge the batteries and all that. And so we went to the lake house where my extended family on my wife's side. We got to go and kind of hang out, and it's been a pretty great couple of weeks around the Lyerla household. Busy but great. And so we're at the lake, and my wife is complaining about her phone not working. So this is a common problem in our household, that if there's a problem with technology, I'm the de facto IT guy, I guess. And so that's my problem all of a sudden, right? Maybe this works the same way in your house. I don't know. So she said that it wasn't working. And so, if she's got to the point where she's asking me about it, then I better pay attention to that. And so as a good husband would, I said, not working, because I care, right? And she said, yeah, I charged it all night and it's almost dead. So I got her phone and I looked at it and I'm trying to figure out settings and things like that. And so, I did the most basic thing possible, and I went over and checked make sure it was plugged in, and she had it. It was plugged right into the power strip, which she checked that. So, okay. So I get down and I look where the power cable from the power strip is, and it's laying at the base of the wall right by the outlet. To which she saw the problem, and then I was promptly dismissed out of the way, right? Couple of important lessons from technology, and maybe about marriage, but we're going to skip that one, right? So I don't know what you got going on in your house, but sometimes technology doesn't work the way that it's supposed to. Anybody else got that going on? First service, I wish that you would have been able to see. I actually got Tony Richardson on stage because the tablet wasn't working, and so I'm like, hey, Tony. And so he's the problem. Apparently my problems are now his problems too. Sorry, Tony. We are not married, so, all of the problems, none of the benefits. So one about marriage, but when it comes down to this, right? All of us, right, have had this problem. It's not simple or easy. Technology sometimes gives us fits. And if you get desperate and call the number on the thing, whatever the thing is, if you call the number on the thing, what are the geniuses on the other end going to say? First, is it plugged in, right? And second, did you reset your device? Okay, so those are power cycle, those are things that we all kind of understand. There have been multiple times, though, and maybe you're the same way. There have been multiple times where I am sure that the thing I'm calling about is broken, it is beyond repair. Nope, just needed charged or reset, and it's fine, right? And those things are still going. So and here's the issue, is that 90% of the time, the hardware is fine. The issue is something else. Serious though, if you're here this morning and you're looking for something, things feel dry, you feel desperate, or maybe you're on the other end of this. Maybe you feel great. You just feel optimistic about what does God have for me next in this season or anywhere in between. Here's the thing that I want to tell you first. You're probably not just damaged goods. We can believe that about ourselves sometimes, can't we? Or be told that there's just something wrong with you, the way that you were born, or the way that it's somehow wrong or bad, or it's the opposite of what it should be. So before you give up on God, or before you give up on being healthy and trying to find solutions, before you do any of that, I just want to throw a couple of questions your way. We had some notes on a card. You can tell Paul's not here because I like just some blank lines, man. I've got a couple of questions I want you to write down. This looks like you asking these questions while you're in front of this week. The first one, where is my focus? If you will do this and be honest with yourself, this can be extremely healthy. Having someone that you can be accountable to also, that's really healthy too. Where am I putting my focus? Because if it's on you, okay, the next one, how am I connecting with Jesus? Often this is the exact same issue as the unplugged device. It's like, what is your power source? If it's you, it's going to run out of batteries at some point. That is what is going to happen if you are not connected to him. Now, these two questions are like an MRI, okay? They will tell you and probably point to what is the issue. They are not intended to fix anything, okay? So this next question is a tough one. Only ask it if you want to know the answer, and be bold when you do. How and what can I do to take my next step? Because that is going to be the hard part, right? It's tough because you never know how he's going to answer this. And however he does, it's going to require action. You're going to have to change something. You're going to have to mix it up. Like, you're going to have to work at it. Change is good sometimes. Like, healthy requires effort. So these questions, all they will do is point you in the direction of him. And then you follow. You ask, what are those next steps? And again, it's not going to be an easy process. Will it be? Is it simple? Often it is. It's just not always easy. But you know that you can take the next step when you trust the one that you are following. And we can trust him. Right? Like, there's a lot of things in this world, and a lot of it is not simple or easy. But one thing that is very simple is we are hopeless without him. And we have to invite his instruction upon our lives. The hard part is being obedient. Pray with me. God, we come to you thankful for all that you do. As we invite you into this space, you are always consistent in here, whether we feel like it or not. As followers of Jesus Christ, even that phrase, followers of Jesus Christ, can sometimes just become jargon or cliche. But literally, to follow you means to deny us, to remember that we can't save ourselves, and do that every day, and then take steps in your direction. And we just need that reminder. The wonderful thing about this is that you not only give us that reminder, but you give us grace. Because we're not going to get this right all the time. And you knew that when you went to the cross and you died for us. So this morning, I want to enable and inspire a bunch of followers of you to sit down in front of these words in a Bible this week and ask the question, ask the hard question, how can I follow you? What is my next step? Because you have an answer for that question. It's never ambiguous. Sometimes it's wait, and that's hard. But give us that answer, and also give us the boldness to be obedient. We love you. It's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Hey, Paul's going to be back next week. We're excited for where we're headed this summer. Pray for us this week for Camp Gotta Go and all the camps we got coming our way. It's good to see you guys.